is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Patreons. Just want to say a shout out to our Patreons once again. We really, really appreciate you guys. You know, it's amazing what we're able to do with the Patreon income and the fact that we're able to keep doing this. I figured I want to save thanking our new patrons until we're back in the books.
Okay.
I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? I'm not sure that everybody's going to listen to the TV show episodes.
Sure.
So I want to actually go ahead and make sure that those people get thanked when we're talking about the books. So just a general thank you to the Patreons and the new folks that we've gotten over the past couple of weeks. Wait around for Night for Dreams prologue to get your names thanked.
That's a good plan. That's a good plan. I like that.
All right. Well, let's dig into episode 5, right?
Yes. Let's dig into episode 5 of season 2 of The Wheel of Time on Prime. All right. The red-ribbed sails of the Shan-Chan invaders blocking the harbor of Falm. Imposing, lovely. The only thing I hate is that the boats are clearly not in an ocean, but whatever. It's fine.
What they're supposed to be like? Man, they're in the bay, right?
They're just not moving with the water.
Oh.
I don't believe that they're real boats in real water, but, like, it's fine.
It's fine. CGI, suspension of disbelief, I'm willing to give it a pass.
All right, so the Shan-Chan hold court outdoors for some fucking reason. I don't understand why. But they look so alien and so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just nice weather. I think it's just Turok being like, hey, let's use the courtyard. It's big space.
It's too bright for my eyes. Like, let's go indoors.
Okay, I thought this voice dude sucked.
Yeah.
Honestly, worst acting in the episode right there.
One other actor, I think, is giving him a run for his money, but yeah, agree.
I love the way they've, like, dressed the Shinoran Ingtar in, like, a dress.
They put him in, like, Dako Vale clothes.
Yeah, it's really, again, very alien looking, right? It really pulls them away from being human, the way they treat their prisoners.
I don't think it's... are we talking about alien style, or are we talking about dehumanization? Because those are two different things.
Yeah, but both the way they dehumanize is alien in style, right? It's both.
But putting him in a dress is alien? I don't follow. It's a relatively tame costume compared to the rest of them.
It's just very weird to see, you know, this Ingtar Lord who we've seen in armor and plating and everything, just in a very weird... I wouldn't even call it a dress, I guess, is part of the problem. I have a hard time identifying what kind of clothing it is.
Robes?
Yeah. And then Suroth is, of course, arrogant as fuck with Turok.
Oh my god, yeah. And she's so insulted to be being addressed by his voice, you know? Like, it's the Shan-Chan interpersonal dynamics here are very true to the book and communicated almost entirely with body language, which I love.
No, excellent scene. I really, you know, again, these political interactions between two powerful characters that are mostly just conversations, well done. Very well done.
Also, the way that the audio here is, like, warping in and out, it was just such a cool twist on the Shan-Chan theme. And so, yeah, she gets her fingernails lopped off in an act of, like, temporary death, right? Like, she is temporarily...
exiled.
Yeah.
Because, like, how does it takes years to grow nails that long.
Right.
That's not something you just, like, bring back overnight.
But also, those aren't her real nails. Obviously, they're, like, an adornment that you can just go pick up at, like, the rich people Rite Aid.
Okay, so here's my question. Are those supposed to be her real nails and it's just bad makeup? Or is it, like, are those nails... No, we saw her put them on, right?
We see the jewelry that holds them on repeatedly in high detail.
Okay.
And they've all got the exact same two nails. Like, I'm sorry, it's just impossible that everyone grows those nails that long. Like, they're decorative. Maybe they're being grown from slaves that are, like, kept held in place, like veal, because the Shan-Chan are fucked up like that. But I'm pretty sure that Suroth can get a new pair once she's allowed back in.
Okay. Like Salmon Asai says, fingernails grow about the same rate as tectonic plates move.
They do. They do. I mean, tectonic plates move at a lot of speeds, but yes, like out here where we're doing the active subduction zone stuff, yes, we are moving at about the rate of fingernails. The coastline is rising out of the ocean at about that pace, which makes for interesting implications with sea level rise.
I love that's such a scientist answer. Yes, but actually it's a little more complicated.
I just lived up to my own fucking stereotype. Damn it.
Yes, but
technically.
So Ishamael brings in Thane with the Horn of Valir, and we get his whistle.
Yeah, he walks in here with all the arrogance and saunter that he ever has, and then when Turak says that I know what this is, his disappointment, just the way he moves his head, is like both exactly the book and also exactly how I feel about how much he's been cut out of this season.
Because like this is his moment. This is kind of all he does. That and his whole like thing with Matt, where he like runs away basically.
All right, this is supposed to be his big arc, and this is all he gets to do with it. And I feel, I don't know.
No explanation for the nailed Murdral. No talk about that, right? Like, they're showing us a lot of things, but not necessarily explaining them. And again, maybe they'll flash back. But we said a lot of that about like things that happened in season 1 that they haven't flashed back to and fixed.
Yeah. Okay, so he opens the box with much less complexity than in the books. But did you notice his nails are gold lacquered? I don't recall. I'm assuming gold means imperial in their structure. Either that or they're all gold lacquered and they aren't doing colors. I feel like there was colors in the books. Like, yeah, Captain of the Green. Yeah, they have different, that's their lacquer color. So either they're doing all gold for the Shan-Shan, or he's imperial and imperial is gold. Or was gold red?
I'm going to have to reference the wiki for that one. One thing I noticed in the show is he's got his ear plugged with that gold sort of, again, it's almost like an earpiece that goes into his ear.
Yeah, Suros got one of those too.
And I was wondering how that relates to the mouthpieces that go in the Damane, right? That there's a certain amount of like, right, hearing versus speaking and the voice. And then also that ties back into my theory of the Crystal Throne as a compulsion device, right? So the higher ups have some sort of filter in their ears to protect them a little bit from the more direct compulsion. And of course, then the Damane have a symbol, have something in their mouth to keep them from speaking, because voices hold a lot of power in the Shan-Shan culture. And whether you hear them muted through a gold device that protects you from the power of someone else's voice, or whether you can't speak, right? Like, I feel like that has a lot of symbolism, or maybe actual power, you know? Who knows? Maybe those are ter'angreal.
I doubt that it's ter'angreal. I think it's all allegorical. But I think you're super right, and it does support that basically headcanon allegorically. Also, I noticed like Moraine has that really cool earring that is the outer shell of her ear, and then the Shan-Shan have a style where it's all on the inside of the ear, which is maybe kind of like a Westlands versus Shan-Shan, or in the Shan-Chan's case, Eastlands, a Randland versus Shan-Shan. Like, again, we're seeing the alien inversion of style kind of thing. God, all the Shan-Shan just looks so weird and cool with the hair and the scars and the servants and the, so weird.
They really built Turok up as a bad guy, and they did a really good job with it, and then they Indiana Jones'd his ass.
Which I didn't hate.
I didn't hate it. Because they haven't built up Tam as a sword fighter at all. So, you know.
Yeah. They made him a good, scary mini boss.
No, Rand, I should say. Right.
All right. So Rand and Moraine running through the woods like absolute ding dongs.
Right.
Also, like,
as Lanfear resurrects.
Lanfear twitching on the floor, bleeding out, and now bleeding in.
Bleeding in. Great fucking. I really, really love the sequence. Great horror sequence.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
Because she has to feel the wounds before she can heal them. Like, the Dark One gives her just enough juice to be able to feel what's wrong, and then she can fix it. And it's like, it's so gross. It's so creepy.
And the way she, like, pulls a breath in, like she really was struggling to breathe. Like, if she didn't heal herself quickly enough, maybe she would die.
The Dark One would have just brought her back to continue drowning in her own blood again and again. Like, That's what I think was happening. It's so fucked up. And yeah, she marches out of the cabin and conjures up a creepy, unnatural storm.
Right, bolt the lightning overhead. I mean, yeah, it's very where's Avienda or who is Avienda vibes.
Yeah. Okay, so they run down the hill and stumble into a stable.
And initiate probably my least favorite sequence in this whole fucking show.
Nodding.
Why killing the horse? Why kill the horse? Why not take it as an alternate
Literally.
piece? It's a trope in fantasy shows. They always take extra horses so they can jump on it when theirs get tired.
And why did she have to use his sword specifically? Like, use your own knife.
Yeah, she's got a knife.
So unnecessary.
Now, I know it's supposed to symbolize her willingness to sacrifice and how she later sacrifices the horse lady, right, to Lanfear.
I didn't need a dead horse to be ready for her to sacrifice a stable hand.
Didn't need it. Thought it was stupid. Either don't write 4 horses in there or have them take the 4th horse or, there's just so many ways. And then again, it forces Lanfear to kill another guy. She basically sacrifices another dude for no reason.
And why is this guy riding in the middle of the night, honestly?
Right. Just a little bit of Taviran-ness going on there.
Mm-hmm. I do like her display of channeling here, though, when she blows his head off.
Yeah. And honestly, this is a very Lanfear moment, right? I'm okay with him riding up because,
Sure, yeah. Also, I think it's weird she didn't know where the road led. Like, this is right down the road from your little cabin you've been planning to take Rand to for weeks. Like, what do you mean you don't know where the highway leads? Maybe it was, like, just to get the guy enough off his guard that it would be more fun to blow his head off. I don't know. I found that an unnecessary question.
Fair enough, yeah. Because
you should hit pause while we discuss this because we're moving on to a completely different scene.
I don't really have anything else to say. Then, I think I can't imagine why they would have her do that other than just, like, she's supposed to get a little information out of him, then blow his head off. It's for effect, right? Have a moment of conversation before you kill him. Don't kill him immediately.
Sure. That makes sense.
Although I think that would have been actually kind of effective for him to be like, "Do you need help?" and her to go, "Yes." Pop.
That was what I was expecting.
I need your
for her
horse.
to say yes, and then he would die. However, she was going to kill him. That was my very first instinct when I watched this scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think that would have worked really well too. That could have been cut slightly differently. So we're back to Perrin and Elias. He's been freed from the caravan, and now he's following Elias, supposedly after his friends.
Yeah, he thinks that Elias is leading him to rescue his friends.
And we get they're changing a little bit about the eyes. He's saying, will they turn yellow permanently? And he says, yes, eventually. The sooner the better, because then you'll actually be able to see. And whereas I feel like Perrin's eyes at this point, they just turn, right? He doesn't look in the mirror for a while, and then all of a sudden, like, he looks in the mirror and his eyes are golden. And they never change back.
Yeah, in the books, it just happens super off screen and without really much mention, and it's very hard to tell if it was a gradual process or if it just happened completely like a switch one day. So, like,
because it was like when Perrin and Egwene were traveling across the plains, lost as hell, and then traveling with Elias, and then, like, so they're in the wilderness. Egwene really wasn't looking at Perrin's eyes, and Elias knew what was happening. So
right, and I got the impression it was like gradual, right, where instead of this like flipping back and forth thing.
Yeah, and maybe not that gradual.
Right, but like, I mean, over a few days, right? Just like faded to yellow or whatever. But, for the sake of the visual medium, I can see the binary switching on and off with the powers coming in closer and closer intervals. Like, that makes sense.
And also they have it off to save some CGI money.
Sure. And Hopper's still sticking close to Perrin. They're buddies. And you really see how Elias hates humanity in a way that is overbalanced to the wolf, right? This is a different balance than what Perrin finds. This is a balance that Perrin finds distasteful. This is the balance that Ishi is hoping Perrin finds, where he hates humanity and he's just a total like misanthrope and wants to stay away and not be part of a pack with his childhood buddies. Not that Elias is evil, but that his rejection of people is very much not going to work for Perrin, the leader of humans, And
I think in a lot of ways, Hopper is the Elias of the wolves, right? He kind of rejects the wolf lifestyle and joins Perrin, who lives a much more human lifestyle, right? And in a lot of ways, like, if you see the way Hopper and Elias are together, they're sort of the inverse of each other. Like the wolf who wants to be more human and the human who wants to be more wolf.
Yeah.
Also, am I making this up? Did I hear a rumor that Hopper lost his wife, and that's why he's sticking. Or was that in the show,
Yeah.
and I'm forgetting about it?
Yeah.
That's in the show?
Elias
Okay.
directly said that he lost his mate too. He mourns her still.
Okay. So that's one of the reasons. That's why Hopper's sticking close to Perrin.
Yeah, they got a bit of a trauma bond. What, you miss civilization? I miss beer.
And to be honest, like, I've read a very convincing argument that the only reason civilization exists is because of beer.
I mean, yeah, there's a goddess of fermentation who has a whole ass beer company in Eugene, Oregon, named for her, Ninkasi.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, we didn't settle down to grow crops and form civilization until we realized we could grow wheat, and wheat could make beer. And we settled down in one place to get drunk. Truly, we are Wolf Brothers, and back to the show. And then this argument that, Elias is like, I'm never alone with the wolves, right? And Perrin's like, you kind of are, right? Like, you kind of need people. And Elias is like, nope, no, you don't. And that's the balance you were talking about.
Well, because Elias has wolves, and for him, wolves are people.
Yes. Which Perrin eventually gets to. I mean, that's sort of when Hopper dies. He comes, and that's his whole argument, right? Is he was defending his friend, and he's allowed to kill somebody for that.
Yeah. All right, so now they're back at Antoine's Mill, and Perrin is parting ways with Elias in a fit of rage. Because he's saying, even your wife wasn't in your pack.
Which, I mean, that's just mean. Come on, Elias.
And I feel like he knew it was mean. He paused for a second before deciding to push that hard. He thinks Perrin's ready to get mad about that and address that head on rather than dancing around it.
But yeah, and that sort of violence that it triggers from Perrin causes the pack to then, in a lot of ways, support Elias, right? They are Elias's pack.
Exactly.
And Hopper goes with Perrin back to the humans. Which inevitably kills him.
So this line, you can't run from what you are, feels so out of context that I think this is the beginning of the editor choices making me mad. Because I feel like that was referencing a conversation that they must have had around another campfire that we didn't get. It felt like such a non sequitur. This episode broadly felt like I start seeing the rough edits and the holes and the incongruities that escalate towards the end of the season.
I'm nodding. I did feel like this was a drop off in quality compared to the previous episode.
Yeah.
There were great moments, but as a whole, and and also like Moraine's whole storyline is not my favorite. Again, in this, and this is where it gets not particularly fun for me. So, is that a portal stone? What is that stone with writing on it? It's just like
that's one of those just guiding waystones.
Guiding stone.
I'm assuming it says lorem ipsum because apparently that's what they all say. But we saw that in season 1. There was a one that actually pointed to different cities. It was the guiding in the ways that didn't say anything.
So Lanfear goes running by. Rand and Moraine come hiding out of the bushes because they've sent the stable hand off with the 3 horses.
Right, they've gotten Lanfear to pick up enough speed that she's overshooting them so they can sneak away behind her.
Why not make it 4?
Literally, why not make it 4? Yeah, that was all I could think for this little plot was just like, that horse died for nothing.
Rand demanding the truth from Moraine being like, fuck.
Yeah, so she lays it out, what she's told us already. She just repeats what she said, which so we know that she's telling Rand the best of what she knows. She's not bullshitting him. We know that as the observers. That's good.
I also how she's like, so you did what I said, and it was a victory for the dark. So now do what I say.
I really wish she would apologize for guiding him to make everything worse. Just once.
Right? Just that would be nice.
Just once. Just an acknowledgement that I was wrong and you made everything worse because I told you to, and I'm sorry. Now we need to move on and you need to listen to me again. That's all I need. Like, she can still be arrogant. She can still demand obedience. Just acknowledge that you fucked up. Anyway, I'm done.
And I also like how she's like, oh, if all the Forsaken get free, we're fucked. And at the end of this season, all the Forsaken get free.
That lets you know that the escalation is escalating. All right, here's the beginning of things making no fucking sense.
Rand did not like her plan. He looked back and was like, what the fuck am I got into?
All right, so Parrot and Hopper, and I do not understand this interaction at all. It seems like Hopper is sending Perrin into Atuan's mill to bury Uno or to meet Avienda, neither of which make any sense as a motivation for Hopper at all. Explain it to me. Make it make sense. Yeah, so Perrin basically smells the fact that Uno is hung up in a cage rather than buried properly and gets pissed.
I mean, that seems to be what the wolf wants to help him with. Is like, your friend is unburied.
But, like, how does that help him get his living friends back? And then Hopper stays off to the side and doesn't help with the White Cloak fight. So, like, I don't understand what his MO is.
Prophecy, maybe? The wolf saw something in a dream?
I could accept that. If we learn that Hopper has had some foreknowledge this whole time, like, once we get to see him, like, reaching Perrin in the wolf dream, he's like, oh, by the way, I know things. Like, I could accept that. Okay, so we see that there's a Shan Chan in a cage in addition to Uno, which lets us know that the military possession of the town has changed since last we were here.
Oh, has it? I thought it was just like a traitor or something. Or like someone who's incompetent.
Oh, no, I saw it as a distinct mark that someone else is in charge now.
Who do you think is in charge then?
The White Cloaks.
Okay.
Did you
Gotcha.
not rewatch the episode before we recorded?
No, I did. I just thought they were kind of operating with the... I was sort of thinking the Shan Chan had just moved on. That the Shan Chan were the ones who had put everybody in cages, because they put Uno's body in a cage, right? So it's their cages.
Yeah, but the White Cloaks say that we pushed them out. So I assumed
Fair enough.
that was
Okay.
their war victory, saying, yeah, we put one of you in your damn cages, you fucks.
Okay.
But also they're, imprisoning random Aiel in the cages. They're very all-purpose in their caging. All right, and now Dane fucking Bornhold. Oh, and Avienda. Avienda's here too.
Mm-hmm. Right, it is nice to... I don't mind the exchange of Avienda for Gaul, right? Like, it's not... I still want Gaul, but I understand why this is a good place to introduce Avienda in the story.
Yeah, it's done very well. It's very true to the books. It gives us all the introduction to the Aiel energy that this encounter is supposed to, and it brings Avi into the plot sooner. Yeah, the only bummer is that it's not Gaul, but it's a really fun scene. It's just as fun as in the books, because the Aiel fucking clean up, wipe the floor with the White Cloaks.
Yeah, this whole conversation, I mean, I guess it creates an intimacy between the two of them, right? For a reason for him to really hate him, because he sort of knows him before he kills his father.
Yeah, this is one of those conversations where it feels so disjointed that I'm like, if you had cut out less of what you shot, I would understand what's happening right now. But instead it just feels like these little fragmented bits of stuff that are supposed to build a relationship and don't. But yeah, the idea is that Dane recognizes Perrin's craftsmanship as being Two Rivers, just like Elaine recognized the stitching on Egwene's blanket. And then sort of takes a shine to him, wants to like look out for him and help him out, even though, because you see with Dane that he's a basically good person who's caught up with the wrong crowd.
Right.
When he gives water to Avienda, when he looks out for Perrin and gives him a little bit of shelter and protection and clashes with Valda over every little thing, you see that he's a basically good person who just is misguided at the moment. And that's, going to create a long-running conflict with Perrin, given the events of the season.
Well, and the inevitable conflict where his dad kills Hopper and then he kills his dad. Right. I mean, that conflict is, of course, always going to be between them from now on, or from the rest of from after the season.
Right, but it has more weight when you know that Dane is a fundamentally good person.
Yes. They're trying to redeem him a little bit, which, nice try.
I don't think they're trying to redeem him. I think they're just trying to give more emotional weight to the conflict than just existential threat.
Making him a better initial person.
Yeah, so that way we actually go on a journey with him rather than just, oh, he's bad like Valda. It's like, oh, he's not. Like this, what's up with the Bornholds? Why are the Bornholds cool? And then we lose the elder Bornhold and we're going to see how the younger Bornhold handles it, And it will go badly, and we'll see if they actually are trying to redeem him or if they just wanted to make us feel something at the top.
And this is also how we're going to get, like, the Valda-Bornhold alliance against Perrin, right? Because Valda abducted him thinking he was a dark friend, he got stabbed, they escaped, right? And Bornhold, of course, will hate him for killing his dad.
Right, and these guys don't like each other currently, but they're going to do an enemy of my enemy with Perrin. Also, do you notice that Valda's still got his arm in a sling?
It hasn't been that long.
Has it really not been that long? I thought it had been most of a year. We agreed that the gap between the end of last season and the beginning of this season was like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, that's correct.
And
yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
like, either he got seriously injured or he's playing it up for sympathy because questioners are fuckheads. Also, you notice the scarlet shepherd's crook on his cloak? I don't think those were there last season.
I don't see them.
It's like splashes of blood. It's not the icon I thought it would be.
Oh, like inside the sunburst.
Yeah.
Gotcha, I see. Yep, yeah, it kind of looks like blood leaking out from the sunburst.
Yeah, it looks like fingerprints of blood, like scrabbling at a cloak, but I think it's supposed to be the scarlet shepherd's crook.
Looks more like a scarf woven through it to me, but...
Yeah, I'm just assuming from the book description that that's what it's meant to be. All right, so Perrin's hiding out, feeling scared because, you know, Valda.
Remembering exactly what happened to him. That's why they showed that in the previously on.
Exactly.
So you'd be like, oh yeah, that's right.
All right, so now we get what is objectively an amazing Lanfear scene.
Yes. Question, do you believe this is the world of dreams and she's fallen asleep, or do you think this is in the real world?
Oh, that's a good question. Her talking to the stable hand. Oh, I assumed it was in the real world because of all the horse foley, but making it in the dream makes a lot of sense.
I mean, that whole mouth trick doesn't necessarily feel like channeling.
Right.
That feels very World of Dreams. I mean, it's a reference to The Matrix and Neo.
Yeah, definitely. Which is a dream in that instance.
Which is a dream.
Yeah.
Right. That swallow. She's more ruthless than I imagined, using you as bait. Swallow.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, you're in trouble.
That's when you realize that you're probably about to die.
Yeah. That's the other thing she says. They'll have to sleep eventually, which means she can get them in their dreams, which makes me think she's gotten this woman in her dreams, right? It's just multiple references to dreams and sleep.
That would make sense. And it makes more sense if this is a dream because of what she does to her mouth. Because I was thinking, like, as gross as it is, you could cut your mouth back open, right? Unless this is what's happening to her in her dreams as she gets literally suffocated in the waking world. As she's like lying there asleep and Lanfear's putting, an air pillow over her face or something, which would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, or she just closes her mouth and nose in the world of dreams, and that kills her in both places.
Sure. Yeah. All right, and then back to Tarvalin for Varen, the detective. So Varen arrives in Tarvalin at night, is epic, puts her cloak back. We love her. She is perfection.
And this is notice how black the cloak is, first of all. And then this was also what we saw in the previews. This is the sort of the intro to Varen, right? Her taking that hood off.
Yes, that was the very first picture we got of her, was taking her hood off and looking at the tower with satisfaction. And then the library. We get a brown library and 2 other brown sisters. The one with the Scottish accent was in Harry Potter.
Naomi and...
Jessica.
Do we know who they are in the books?
I don't believe either of those names ring a book bell for me.
Okay.
And yeah, Varen says, I'm here for your company. Also, I have homebrew.
Yeah.
and she gets a much warmer welcome suddenly.
Uh-huh. Because Adelius is a drinker, right? They established that, so they know her brew is the good stuff.
Yeah. Adelia is very good at making stuff she likes to drink. And we just get so much brown energy, just the chattering questions, and then it slides into Aes Sedai subterfuge, and I love them so much. I love all these brown sisters.
I'm shocked you love seeing a Varen with a bunch of brown sisters.
Also, their costumes are super cool.
Yeah.
And she starts her first line of questioning, which is about the Supergirls. Cut to the Supergirls.
Who are missing?
And in the ways. We are in the ways with Leandrin creating a bubble of much more safe feeling than Moraine ever did. She's got a horse. She's got fires. She doesn't seem afraid of whatever's happening. Like, she's way chiller than Moraine.
I wonder if there's some dark friend benefit to being in the ways, right? That, like...
I assume so.
Yeah. They know a trick to keeping Mashin shit away,
I assume so.
supposedly.
And yeah, she's wearing her black overcoat and tries to basically discuss the situation with Nynaeve. And Nynaeve is like, Black Aja?
there's much more of a bond between them in this, right? She lets her go at the end. She releases her bonds to give her a chance, right? She was recruiting her for the Black Oddjaw, right? She really does want Nynaeve to respect her.
Yeah.
And like her.
Yeah. So she tells her the story of how the oaths got imposed on them by Arthur Hawkwing, and we see an echo of her own struggle in her childhood to get free of men. Leandrin is a man-hating red, but there is depth and reason to it in a way that wasn't in the books.
Well, and I like the idea that, like, she's anti being controlled by any kind of man, and a man implemented the oaths, so she didn't want to be controlled by the oaths, and that's one reason to join the Black.
Yeah. I also love her insight that making the Aes Sedai seem inhuman is what makes them feel defanged to insecure men. I thought that was a very interesting take. That being human is the most threatening thing to the oppressive powers that be.
Which is in a lot of ways, right? This whole Moraine, you will find that most Aes Sedai are just women with power. They try to cover it up, but that's really what they are. But
Leandrin is saying, we don't try to cover it up. The people who are afraid of us make us cover it up.
And then Nynaeve is like, yeah, so I'm a kidnapping victim. Could you please stop, putting the emotional burden of our relationship on us? You're kidnapping me.
I love the way that interaction went down. I love their relationship. That is a relationship I did not expect to be getting so much life from. All right, so now we're back with the Seanchan, and Ishi dismisses Alwyn, which pisses Suroth off. And we finally get to see Suroth's face, and we get to see her in all of her pouting glory. And oh my god, she's so petty. I love her. She's exactly Book Suroth.
They did a good job with her. Not so much with the bald cap, but...
yeah.
And the lack of eyebrows creeps me out. I think that's one of the things that gives her a really unnerving face.
I do not like the eyebrowless look. I get it as like a way of making them alien, but But she's so... In the books, she's short-tempered and angry and wants to kill everyone, like, constantly. And it's just...
And yeah, she wants to kill Turok, but Rand does that for her.
Right. And she literally has the audacity to say, you might be one of the chosen, but you're not one of the blood. Like, she's so arrogant.
Right. The Seanchan have a real split affinity, right, for the Empress and the Dark when they do that. Because they swear these oaths to the Dark they have to do. But I think in a lot of ways they're also compelled, right, to obey the Empress. And, like, in a lot of ways, I feel like Dark Friend Seanchan are torn between two binding, competing oaths.
I'm so curious if the show is actually gonna bear that out. Because I love that. I'm so curious if we're gonna get that. But I love also how he just shuts her down. He's like, oh, what a tantrum. That's so cute. He's half human and half demigod playing with his toys,
Right. And I do like that they are sticking with the idea that he wants Rand to join, and that's one reason why he's not out there actively trying to kill him, right? Why he's doing all this machinations and stuff like that. He's not trying to kill Rand, he's trying to convince him to join the dark side. And that's true to the books as well.
And not made clear until, like, book 5 or so it's nice they're spelling it out sooner.
Right.
All right, so Perrin sneaks out to do a jailbreak with the Aiel in a cage.
And this is, again... very true to the books with just a slightly different Aiel in the cage.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different in the books. In the books, he's like chasing after Rand with Moraine.
Oh yeah, the circumstances are totally different. Yeah.
There's just a lot more context. Like, this feels very out of context, but I don't care because it gets us, do you like to dance, Perrin Ibarra? Which is all that matters.
And he's picked up a heavy wood splitting axe just to pry the bars open. So she wants to know why he's helping her, right?
And as a wolf boy, he's anti-cage.
Right. Well, as a human, he's anti-cage, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, you didn't do anything wrong, you just got put in cage for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's not fair.
Much like the White Cloaks look at the Seanchan and go, they seem to have a system of slavery. We should be upset about that.
Right. I like that they give her a moment to stand up and get her legs underneath her, right? Like, they sort of show that wobbliness a little bit.
Just like in the books, Gaul makes a mention of, like, yes, I'm a badass, but also my legs are literally asleep.
Yeah, and you can see her sort of stumbling as she gets out of there.
Yeah, but then, over the moments it takes for the fight to get warmed up, her legs get feeling back and she's able to kick some ass. And Dane shows up with a hell of a war axe, which is definitely going to keep...
I wanted Perrin to take
I think it's going to keep showing up as they clash, because it's too ornate to just be a random prop. Like, that is... such a piece. I don't know that Perrin will ever take the axe up, but he's going to be fighting against the axe a lot. You know? I love how the White Cloak theme is creeping in, and then the Aiel theme takes over.
Right. And Perrin does that whole thing where he stands in front of her and she's like laughs at him and steps in front.
The laugh and the considering look she gives him before she gives the line is just...
I think there's a great line here where he says, go at her all at once, don't attack one by one or she'll take you out, which is exactly what happens in the movies.
And he sits to the side and waits like a fucking asshole commander, always does. Love the musical theme, love the Aiel fighting style, love how long this fight sequence is.
Mm-hmm. They did give him a long time to go pick up a weapon. But I guess they're much more concerned with Aviendha.
Yeah, they're not afraid of him. He's just some country bumpkin.
Yeah. Now, I don't think quite as memorable as the Shail fight scene, the cold open.
No, but a good second act to follow that.
Yeah. I would have liked to see a few more moments of like slow-mo where really cool things were happening.
Yeah, I feel like the fighting was just as good and the choreography was just as good, but the actual like shoot, angle, edit style could have been more epic. Yeah. But I love the Aiel way of fighting. They made it so distinctive.
Yeah. And Perrin's picked up something. I think it's an axe that he's swinging around.
It's either an axe or a sledgehammer. It's definitely a tool, not meant for killing per se. It's just some random tool. And then he stops Aviendha from killing Dane for reasons that I also find perplexing. Oh, I'm a good person. Like, he's an asshole. Kill him.
Right. But he does make a point that he gave you water, right? And that's a water debt. Aviendha's like, fine.
It's a remarkable depth of knowledge about Aiel culture for someone who's known about it for like 45 seconds. I feel like...
I think it's totally luck. I think he's just like, oh, he was nice to you. He gave you water, right? I don't think he's trying to imply everything that goes along with that. In the Aiel culture. I think he just got lucky.
Sure. That would be a very Taviran thing to say, sure.
So yeah, they spare him. Which, again, adds more depth to his sort of revenge against Perrin. Is like, yeah, you killed my father, but you also spared my life.
Yeah, really, we needed that. We needed Dane to see the golden eyes and to feel in debt to Perrin somehow. All right, so back to Cairhien.
Back to Rand and Moraine, yep.
And Moraine suggests that it's possible to ride for days without sleep.
Which is just so ridiculous to me.
Not sleeping is not a goddamn plan, woman.
Mm-mm.
I like Rand stumbling over Teleran Riyadh.
Yeah.
That's for the audience. So like, no, you don't have to worry about that word. You can just say World of Dreams. It's okay.
And then his response, you can keep us awake with one power. And she's like, no, you're just going to have to stay awake. And he's like, fuck.
Yeah. So they're dirty and tired, and they go in through a back door into the Damodred house to get resources, to get horses mainly, and cleaned up. And then we get to go into the kitchen and meet Barthanes.
Mm-hmm. Who I think we were talking and I was like, oh yeah, he's probably a dark friend. And you're like, wait, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Was that you?
You were down here in person and you're like, do you think he's a dark friend like in the books? And I'm like, holy shit, he was a dark friend in the books. I forgot about that. Because I was buying his innocent boy act because I had completely forgotten his alignment in the books.
Well, because he's a completely different character. He just happens to also be a dark friend with the same name. Yeah. Right? Because he's sort of a powerful, in charge,
right,
political savvy person as opposed to this whining, mewling boy.
He's not whining. What's whining?
When they lock him in the dungeon, he starts whining.
He's not whining here.
No.
And I also want to say, for the record, raspberries and thimbleberries taste very different.
I trust you on. What's a thimbleberry?
It looks a lot like a raspberry. It's a little many cells in a little cup shape, but they have a much muskier taste that I don't actually like.
So you're like, oh yeah, I can totally identify those.
Easily.
Well, but what about when they're in wine?
I don't know that I've ever had either of those as wine.
Exactly. Maybe it's not as, maybe the difference isn't as obvious when it's in a wine.
I thought we were talking about like little custard fillings. That's what I thought they had on the table. That's what I thought the tasting difference was. But I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, okay, yeah. So we learned that he's going to be marrying Queen Galdrian. That's a big deviation from the book. It was a rivalry between two male heads of houses. This is now a marriage alliance between a cishet couple.
Where's Tom when you need him? Come on, we need some murder.
Yeah. Oh, also, Lilligant's pointing out in chat, there was an excellent shot of skirts divided for writing. and the difference of those. When they were walking down that corridor on the way to the house, you can see in Moiraine's profile, she is wearing skirts divided for writing while Rand is wearing regular trousers. And as they walk down that hallway alley, it's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, when she swings her legs wide, you can see that they're actual pant legs. But in general, when she's taking smaller steps, it looks like a skirt.
Yep. Skirts divided for writing.
They're not pants.
I'm glad that they got that in there. Yeah, they're not pants.
But that they're really basically pants. Basically, they're just pants. Let's just be real. They're pants. They're just really floofy pants.
Oh, and this line that he plays off as a joke, I will be your king, so I expect full subservience. Total creepazoid.
Right. When you know he's a dark friend. Because at first I was just like, oh, he's like a charming boy child who's never grown up. And even though he's 20, he talks like he's 5. But knowing he's a dark friend and he's the reason for the rise of the house, it's just like, oh, yeah. This is part of his act. That makes it creepy.
I like how she's like, he needs fresh clothes. He needs a bath. He needs a meal. And it's like, no, Moiraine, you need that as well. Mm-hmm. Like, it should be for both of you. But she wouldn't ask it for herself. She'd only ask it for Rand. Right.
Also, she suggests that, like, Barthanes and Rand are, like, of a size, which, like, they are not. Like, Rand is way bulkier than Barthanes.
Yeah.
The different heights, like... Also, I kind of feel like Barthanes is, like, considering flirting with Rand. I feel like there's just, like, the slightest hint of flirting. Because... Rand's cute.
I think it's almost admiration. He's like,
you're
this warrior, you're dirty, you're carrying a sword, you're coming in with an Aes Sedai. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in this palace doing politics to become king.
Yeah. He's like, oh, you are a rugged, handsome man. I like that. I want to be you and I want you. All right, back to the tower.
And Varen, investigating the disappearance of the 3 girls.
Mm-hmm. All right, obvious reference to corporeal punishment being a huge part of Aes Sedai training, just in case there was any doubt.
The novice escaping.
More reference to Varen being a retiree. There's really a lot more gradations of Aes Sedai life cycle in the show. Varen and Shiriam.
Yeah, they're like they're doing the chores. In fact, they aren't. I think that was such a well-delivered line. Like, no, I've looked and you're wrong.
Yeah, no, she is killing this role so much.
Yeah. Is it possible they may have left Tower Grounds, knowing goddamn well that's the only place they're not on in the tower?
And I do think that Shiriam is the more out of control one. Even though it is 2 dark friends, I think Shiriam is way more at the whims of the situation than Varen.
Well, I think it's 3 dark friends, right? I think Leandrin compelled compelled Shiriam, thank you. And of course Varen's investigating it.
Yeah, I feel like Shiriam is the least aware of what's going on of all the dark friends in this scenario.
She's always the least aware of what's going on with all the dark friends.
Exactly. But yeah, Leandrin clearly came in and compulsioned her to write something in the book.
Exactly. So whether she's a dark friend or not, it doesn't matter. She doesn't even know, in my opinion, that she was compelled. Yeah.
Exactly. In this case, she is acting as a blue mistress of the novices. She has no idea that there's dark stuff happening literally through her, even though she's a dark friend.
And the show could still not make her a dark friend, right? The show has the option to change people's affiliation, because she's not very much like the Shuriam we know at all. So
far, they have not locked themselves into her being a dark friend yet. I would agree with that.
No.
And then this part. It's so fun. The other Brown Anja sister sneaks in. Yasika sneaks in because they do. Also, did you notice the book they mentioned that Varen mentioned to get Shiriam to leave the room?
Which one was it?
Meditations on the Kindling Flame. It's all about the rise of various Amerlins. It's a book that gets referenced during Egwene's Rise to Power arc.
Nice reference.
And so, yeah, when they go to get that book, Yasika is able to go in and look at the book and has apparently a eidetic memory, a photographic memory, and is able to pick out handwriting differences and recreate them like a photocopier for Varen to look at, which I find deeply improbable, but okay.
Magic. Well, there is an Aes Sedai with that kind of memory in the books.
But to recreate it, that's the part I find difficult. Photographic memory, I totally buy. I know lots of people with it. It's a total thing. But for her to say, look, I wrote out the thing so you can see the error between the 2 copies is like, is there anyone that good?
That's actually in Stormlight Archive, one of the main characters. That's one of her, like, big skills is the ability to, like, essentially see and draw out anything she sees. And it's, like, a big talent that she's got.
It's quite the impressive talent, if this character,
Yes.
in fact, has that. And they aren't just Sayadaring it, you know?
So, yeah, they judge from the tremor in the notation that, like, she was writing more slowly, most likely under some sort of compulsion. And I think that's not something you can do voluntarily. I do think that is, like, an actual sign of compulsion. Varen knows because she's used compulsion.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like she makes that suggestion so casually, and I'm like, either this is horrible writing,
Right.
or Varen knows exactly what the fuck she's talking about from personal experience, which seems more likely, I think.
I like the looks of the letters.
Oh, yeah. And so basically they're pulling up a bunch of bits and pieces of the Black Aja discovering and hunting plot later to, like, compress this conversation about, oh, well, if you had compulsion, that means the Black Aja really exists, which the show and the books are both disappointing me in it took you 3,000 years to think of that, really? But
Right.
nonetheless, they're sticking as close to the book in that regard as they can. And,
Well,
with it.
and Varen has been looking for Black Aja this whole time and discovered very many of them. So, like, we never saw that on screen, but she has been making those notes.
Yes. Also, she has a book hanging from her belt in all those scenes, and I want to think that that's the key. That's the book, that she just keeps it on her at all times. Okay, so we are in Falm. Well, the rural countryside near Falm, and the gateway has opened up.
Right. This is Suroth on a small outing by herself to go meet them there.
No Alwyn, no face mask, no Ishi, but she still has her palanquin.
And her slaves, because they're not real people. They don't count.
And a bunch of guards that are all sworn to her specifically.
And Suldam, of course, to take these women prisoner.
Yeah. Just Suroth and her innermost circle.
So she's got them, I don't know, unconscious. They're basically looped over the back of the horses. I don't know how she got them there completely unconsciously. Does she keep knocking them out?
I'm assuming that Forkroot already is known in this world. That's the simplest explanation to me, is that Forkroot is just a known quantity.
So then you got the verbal sparring between Leandrin and Suroth, which is, again, very book accurate.
Yeah. And I think it definitely is foreshadowing that these two are going to have future seasons of conflict together. That should be agonizing.
And they come from the very traditional argument of the Aes Sedai versus Shan Chan. Like, they're both representing that side of things, but they have to talk because they're both dark friends, which is exactly what was going on in the books. That our master's knees will change with time. I think that's directly from the book.
Perhaps I'll be the one to place the collar around your lovely throat. Straight out of the books.
Yeah. And the fact that they both, like, fall separately and without ever really meeting again in the books is kind of funny to me. They have this, like, I'll rule you, no, I'll rule you, and it's like, nah, you're both just gonna suck.
Yeah, I always confuse Alviarin and Leandrin when it comes to Suroth. So yeah, she cuts the bonds just on Nynaeve because she doesn't give a shit about Egwene or Elaine. She doesn't give a shit about the three of them. She only cares that maybe Nynaeve has a fighting chance.
And she's just throwing a little bit of a wrench into Suroth's spanner.
Yes, also simply fucking with Suroth purely out of spite.
Totally. But Nynaeve isn't able to really accomplish anything, which I think is kind of funny, right? Like, she doesn't do anything to defend them. It's all Egwene and Elaine.
Yeah, which I like that Elaine was able to do a fireball without her hands, because that indicates that maybe she's been listening to Egwene about, like, but what if we didn't use our hands so much?
Right. And so then you got the Suldam rain down fire from above and then shoot out fire from in front, and Egwene does her shield of air. Again, really good. I like the CGI. I like the channeling effects. I think they're doing a really good job. And there's a good mix of, like, practical explosions with CGI.
Yeah, this felt like a lot more fun than the Logain fight in season 1.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they all go running off through the woods, and Egwene stumbles and falls behind just enough to get caught. And then, the other two follow the getting chased by a bear rules and are faster than the slowest member of the party and thus get away.
Right. I don't have to outrun the bear, just the slowest member. And Egwene is captured in flows of air. And it almost feels like the Damane looks sad.
Yeah, I imagine it's a rough moment to catch a fresh person into the hell that you've been living this whole time.
And back to Perrin and the Wolves with
Perrin and
Aviendha.
a single wolf, anyway.
Well, yes.
And again, very similar to the book discussion of getting Perrin and Gall to talk through, like, what is Aiel culture? What is toe? What is the waist? Like, why are you following me? Like, all that establishing dialogue. Very, very book accurate. But can we get mad at her for not washing her fucking head wrap when she's next to a literal goddamn lake?
Right, yeah. Well, I'm assuming it's just stained red, that it's been washed and it's just...
It looks chunky still. It looks stiff with blood.
And
like,
she does have blood on her forehead, and she hasn't, like, washed her forehead off. Like...
Yeah, like, you're next to a lake. And then she fucking teases Perrin so expertly. She's like, I was not suggesting that I need to sleep with you, but I wouldn't mind. Ha ha, lol, JK. But what if? LOL, JK. Yeah. It's so funny.
Don't worry, I'm not going to attack you in a fit of lust. It's like, I can control myself. Don't worry, you're not that attractive.
Which also I think is good for grounding this as the platonic relationship that he has with Gall, which, you know, many people wish would have had some sexual tension in it.
Oh, the shippers.
See all my Stonewall fans out there. All right, so back to Falma at twilight. This is the beginning of the how little light can we shoot this fucking show in theme.
Oh, God, I know. I was so frustrated by this a little bit. Actually, the fight scene with Avienda and Perrin also was pretty dark with the White Cloaks. Like, I didn't like how dark that shot was.
Yeah, that was annoying. I did like that this was a camel caravan, because in season 1, we saw a single camel in Tar Valon, and it was like, ooh, the world's so exotic. And now, here we are in a place with a camel train. It's like, we're where camels come from now. And then Elaine says, we're thousands of miles away from where we started, to reinforce that. But I liked the camels setting that scene. All right, so Basan, the warder, notices 2 Aes Sedai novices in white dresses and trying to hide themselves sneak into town, and he follows them to rescue them from themselves.
Which, on first viewing, you're like, uh-oh, who's this guy noticing them? What's he gonna do? They're setting up that tension of, like, they're getting caught.
Yeah. This is another scene where I feel like we lost some Nynaeve and Elaine relationship building on the way to the town gates.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're bickering as though we know what their relationship is like. But this is literally the second scene that they've ever been in together. And it's the editing. I'm sure they shot it. I'm sure they shot a scene by that oasis where they tried to decide what to do. I'm sure they shot a scene where they acquired the costume change. But we don't get to see it.
I would have also liked to see them just living in the town a little bit longer, right? Like, I feel like that was a big part of their relationship building, is them, okay, warder, a little violent there, slamming their heads into the fucking wall.
Yeah.
And knock them out. But yeah, I would have liked to seen much more relationship building between the two of them. In the same way that I would have liked to see more in between Rand and Matt on the road, right? Instead of that cut.
Yep.
3 months later or whatever. But
1 month later, but yeah. All right, so Leandrin and Varen having some Black Aja verbal sparring. Though I'm not sure that Leandrin knows that Varen is Black Aja.
Unlike in the books where she would have known because she knew everybody.
Right. So this whole white asparagus thing, where Varen cuts Leandrin off, it's like they've both used that excuse. Okay, and did you notice the name of the town?
Jareen?
Yeah. That's one of the towns that they stop in Dragon Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which specific event happens there, but I know that that's one of the towns in that list when Perrin and co. are chasing after Rand. Give us the Googles.
The Googles. Jareen is a village in Cairhien. This is where the 3 girls are put ashore and walk to Jareen. While in Jareen, they secure passage to Tyr aboard the Darter.
Okay. So that's not one of the towns that Rand and co. and his tail pass through.
No. It very much is the 3 women, right? Remember the prophecy about the 3 Aes Sedai that the Aiel have, where they like, oh, if we meet 3 Aes Sedai traveling on the side of the river towards something.
Towards seeking the heart of the stone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's in Jareen.
Okay. So one of those things that they pulled out but completely stripped of its context, because in this, they're saying that there was supposedly a rumor of a young man who could channel there, and Leandrin says, oh, it was nothing. So completely separate. I was thinking it was one of the Rand events that they were referencing, but never mind.
If anything, they're referencing the fact that we're meeting Avienda in this episode, and that's where we meet Avienda.
That's what that reference is. Okay, got it. Thank you. So then what is this little attack story thing? What is happening here?
Oh, so this is, I mean, Leandrin obviously created the excuse ahead of time that they were going to go to Camelin, get attacked on the way, and disappear.
Oh, obviously. Okay, I have one brain cell to rub together, apparently. Obviously.
So she's basically saying, like, oh, wow, I heard they were attacked. Oh my God, is it possible they won't make it to their destination? How would that happen? You know, it's like, oh yeah, because she kidnapped them. Of course they're not going to make it. She set up the whole excuse from start to finish. And Varen is seeing through it like a fucking, like, you know, piece of, you know, transparent glass. She's like, oh, is that what happened to them? Really? Not that you put compulsion on Shiriam and are coming up with this whole excuse. I think Varen's seeing right through her. Varen knows.
Well, I knew that. I just was really confused about Leandrin, like, suddenly having this story ready to hand, because I wasn't putting it together that, like, her scheme had multiple phases, obviously. But then, why does Leandrin say, we have to go get this news to someone, you hurry while I hurry in the other direction? The fuck does that even mean?
No, she's saying, come with me.
Is she?
We need to go report this news.
She didn't seem very agitated that Varen didn't go with her, if that was the case.
I think she expected Varen to follow her and was just not looking back. And Varen's like, I see through your bullshit, right?
That did not make any sense to me. That seemed very transparently like...
Yeah, Leandrin's a terrible liar in this case.
No, I'm saying Varen obviously saw through her, but then the thing at the end made no sense. Like, if Leandrin wants Varen to come with her, then why is she not agitated that she's not coming with her?
Varen's just moving slow. She's doing her whole significant look at the audience thing. I think that was just editing bullshit. She was walking forward, just slowly.
I completely disagree, and once again, I throw all my fury at whoever was driving the editing. What the fuck is the editing in this show? If that was what you wanted to tell me, bad fucking cuts, people. Bad cuts.
Moraine having an emotional moment in private.
And looking at her bed with just all the longing in the world.
Yeah. It's like, nope, you are not allowed to sleep. Sorry.
Yeah, and she starts to sponge herself down without changing out of her blood-stained fucking undershirt, which I am just like, first things first, stop wearing someone else's blood. Like, honestly, gross.
Lanfear's blood, technically.
Exactly. Like, ew. Get it? It's Forsaken blood. Take it off. You have other shirts. I know you have other shirts.
I think this is just the way they're making the show to show us that she's dirty and bloody. Same thing, same reason that Avienda's hood is bloody, right? Just to remind you that she was in a fight.
It's heavy-handed and taking me out of the immersion.
I like the reference to he came out more like her father than you or I.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking because she thinks that he's escaped the Damage Red curse, but in fact, he got it in spades.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good at being bad that even you can't see it. And then this sisterly chat. I really like this sisterly chat where she says, you've always known what you wanted to do and now you don't, and seeing you directionless is really like confusing. And Moraine is able to work through the problem and talk to her sister while talking around every detail that would make it complicated. It's so cool.
It's also like she notices the spark is gone, like the channeling ability is gone, right?
She doesn't know what she's seeing, but she knows her sister. She knows something's wrong. Yeah. That word, crossfire. Anachronistic without fire, but firearms.
Moment of vulnerability for Moraine. Yeah, it's not very often that you see Moraine actually, like, admit that she doesn't exactly know the answer. So there's very much like, this is her older sister. She's admitting that too.
Right. Her little sister has become the older sister in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really good advice. Honestly. If something's upsetting you, like, figure out if the thing is true. And then work from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way that her eyes flick back and forth as she works through the implications of that question, such good face acting.
So what do you think she realizes in that moment? That Rand doesn't need her protection and that she needs to be doing something else? Like, I don't quite follow what her epiphany is.
I think it's that Rand doesn't need that kind of protection. That keeping Rand away from Lanfear as though he is a simple village boy being kept away from a rabid wolf is that's not what he needs. That's not how to approach this problem at all.
And that he was surviving fine for a long time without her there, killing Lanfear.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Whatever the game is Lanfear's playing, it's not at all what Moraine is playing, and Moraine needs to get with the program. That's what the epiphany was. And then this scene.
This is what I'd like to see more of, like messing with the Mask of Mirrors, messing with like different people and tell everyone Riyadh, because you can make actors do all sorts of fun things together and be like, oh, this is just Lanfear looking like Rand.
I expect we're going to see a lot more of this as the World of Dreams gets introduced as a bigger concept.
Show me more World of Dreams. We could double the length of this season just by having all the World of Dreams scenes put in there that we haven't gotten.
Seriously. I love this scene, though. I love this scene. It sets up so much of the emotional tension of the Ishii, Lanfear, Luz triad.
Well, and I like the idea that she's just hanging out in Tel'aran'rhiod waiting for Rand to fall asleep. And while she's waiting, she's like pestering Ishamael in his dreams, just like poking him in the nose, being like, I'm bored. I'm waiting. I'm bored.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Basically.
Yeah.
Entertain me.
Yeah, exactly. And then they start talking in the old tongue, which I really like. Yeah,
still bashing about with swords and queens. I feel like that's a ripoff of an actual quote from like a famous piece of work or something. Kings and bashing about with swords and kings. I feel like that's a reference to something. I have no idea what. Oh, notice how she's drinking out of the brandy snifter glass. He takes it from her and drinks out of it later. They're drinking out of different glasses. They're very different shapes. But later he drinks out of the brandy snifter one.
Interesting. And you notice that he also is all about our Great Lord's victory, and she doesn't say...
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely watching her language very carefully, and she is Team Rand. She's Team Rand. It's really obvious she's Team Rand. Talking about leaving Moraine in the game.
And they both want to turn Rand. Just, he wants to turn Rand to the Dark One. She wants to turn Rand to her. And also the Dark One.
I also love this is Ishii's entire MO with Rand's allies. Desperation opens the mind to more interesting possibilities.
Put them in desperate situations, force them to reach out for...
As it did for you, Lanfear. She gets hurt by that. Like, fuck you, don't bring that up. And then, this exchange. Will you betray me? Obviously.
Right.
The smile she gives him that does not touch her eyes. The way he looms and then backs up. Just, these two have chemistry.
Well, these are some of the best actors, I think, in the show. They've really done a great job with the Forsaken actors. I think they keep stealing the show. And I think Moghedien does it at the end, right?
I mean, this is what I was saying from back before the show was ever a possibility. I was like, I want the Forsaken to be like well-known, talented actors, and the Emmonsfield Five to be like new bumbling kids that have no acting career. Like, I want that meta level, and I feel like we're getting it. Yeah, see, he took her glass. He chuckles and then takes her glass and gulps it down. And then look at her face.
And chugs
like,
it. Yeah.
So
He's not
much
happy about
layers. That. Also, he says, why did the Great Lord wake me first? Great Lord didn't wake your ass. Rand woke you.
Well, Rand freed him, right? But he was reaching out in Rand's dreams for a while before he was freed, right? He influenced Rand to come free him.
That's true. Is it the thinning of the pattern every 3,000 years? Then?
That I don't know. It doesn't appear to be that way.
So I could see them trashing that. And all right, fine.
And they didn't chain them all at once, right? He wasn't the closest to the surface. He was just the one who got woken up first, and then he was able to influence Rand and Moraine and the prophecies and the dreams to get freed.
Good point.
And then these are the actual seals. Like, they've collected all the seals of Quendiar that are holding in the other Forsaken in this room.
Yeah, they're all ready. So are 6 of them in this room? 3 on each side of the fireplace? Okay. And so we got some name drops here. Moghedien and Grandal and the boys. So that leaves 1 woman unnamed and 3 men unnamed.
Oh, that look into the camera. That was good. And then he's but they're looking at Rand.
Because she asks, why release me first? And he's like, because I know what you want. And then...
Which makes her controllable.
Exactly. Cue image of Rand in the bed just looking like a soft little seductive cinnamon bun. You can just imagine how the 3 of them were just such a mess in the Age of Legends. Ilyana ruined all the fun. So he says that he's got the girls now, which he doesn't. I'm guessing he's saying this as they're in the ways on their way to be collected, but Nynaeve is still rogue, technically.
And he's not even considering Elaine.
No, Elaine's a non-factor at this point.
So he says one fears power and the other one craves it. I assume Nynaeve is the one who fears the power.
Yes, and Egwene obviously is the one who craves it. Matt was born mine, false, and Perrin will soon be more wolf than man, false and irrelevant.
Yeah, also not helpful for you.
Yeah, like, he's playing that like it's a bad thing, but that's just to keep the audience confused. Like, no, nature's not evil. That's not how it works.
But, maybe if he's more wolf, he's thinking that'll make Brand not trust his friend.
Maybe. Is she overestimating the despair level that people will reach? Very on brand.
Right.
And then the disembodied voice of a person in the waking world waking Ishii up.
As he fell asleep in his chair. Kind of reminds me of an old man falling asleep in front of the TV, like in his
Except
lounge
instead
chair.
of static, it's like evil plotting. So yeah, he gets summoned to Turok at night. Turok apparently holds court outdoors at night.
Also, like, what the fuck is this Shamael doing coming to, like, the summons of some crappy Shan-Chan? Like, I'm not used to Shamael acting in the real world as he's the Dark Lord's right hand. He's not a flunky in somebody else's organization. He never acted that way.
Yeah, I feel like what they're doing is they're giving us actual on-screen examples of what the other male Forsaken do in the early books, like slipping into circles of power, like Ravine and Balal as the High Lord Salmon. They're giving us an idea of what that would have been like, but they're having Ishii do it, which is a little odd, but I like seeing it because this is what the Forsaken appear to be doing in the early books broadly, and like it makes sense.
Except
but
Ishii, right?
is the exception to that, and it is a little weird to see him doing this subservient, oh yeah, I'm just a High Lord thing. But also, this Ishamael seems to be more invested in playing the human game than Book Ishii. So.
He's not as insane.
Yeah, exactly. He's not as much of an esoteric force of nature. He's still human.
Good knowledge shop, right? He first saw the omens that had them return, right? So basically, he's orchestrating the whole return.
The entire return is an Ishii plot, which he set up by getting Shan-Chan to take off in the first place, however many thousand years ago.
And so then he says only the Empress can see the omens, makes me think that he did some compulsion on the Empress.
Agreed. He definitely got close to the Empress and got her to initiate the return. So Turok says, you can have one favor from me, because that's how our world works. And Ishii magnanimously gives that to Suroth and says, all I want is for you to let Suroth back into your presence long enough to accept her gift. Egwene.
Because that's his whole goal, is just to make her
turn to the dark through misery.
Right.
So Elaine and Nynaeve wake up after their head concussions were healed by the Yellow Eyes Sedai, apparently. And we meet Rima.
Yeah, Rima, it's also a little bit like that Mikura woman, right?
Oh,
the kidnapping them and
it does have echoes of Rhonda Mikura.
Yeah.
Except good in this case.
Right.
Yeah, so then we get the very foreboding line, do you have any idea what the Shan-Chan do to women who can channel? Cut to Egwene getting collared.
Right. Yeah, they didn't collar her in the field like they did. They just captured her and then...
I find this very frustrating that they didn't collar her in the field. Why? This just for the dramatic effect of being collared in front of the High Lord? Like, ick. That is illogical.
And also collar her and then give her as a completed gift, right?
Exactly.
Like, no. They took the time to braid her hair.
Yeah, and like the hood, like clearly she's shielded in some fashion. I'm assuming that the hood somehow was like a dampening field. Because like, otherwise she'd be blowing them all up at this point. Yeah, I see no reason for this to have been such a dramatic court thing. It should have just happened in the field.
I do like the magic of the collar, the way it expands out magically and becomes a whole chess piece. And then you get the magical leash to the bracelet.
Yeah, seeing the leash be made manifest after seeing the magical line, I thought that was very cool. They're like, we have the leash for the visual allegory of it, so that way people can see it, so that way everyone knows what's happening. But really, the leash is just a chain. It's not actually part of the magic.
And it seems to be just for the trainees.
Yeah, it seems to be early days, like training wheels.
And so, yeah, that was a great scene. And the whole Egwene being captured and made Damane is fantastic. One of the best parts of the season, I think.
I'm going to be marking myself not safe from episode 6 next week.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Fuck. All right, so back to Kyrian with Barthanes and Rand.
God, I miss Tom so much in these scenes.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. Tom would have enlivened this stuff a lot.
Tom and even Matt and Matt's humor, right? Like, I miss the humor. I think that might be one of the things I miss most. I'm not laughing very much in these episodes. These very serious episodes. Like, give me a little more humor. And, like, the Matt stuff is a little humorous, but, again, like, even Rand had a lot of humor in his POVs. And the girls did. Like, there's a lot of humor missing from the show that's in the books. And some of that humor is not really appropriate anymore, so they need to do it differently. But, man, the show is not funny.
And I feel like this episode would have had room for humor if they hadn't been held to a stupid fucking time limit. Like, surely in the original, like, scripts and drafts of what they wanted this episode to be, surely there were moments of humor and bonding and laughter. But, like, by the time you get to the end product, it's all been stripped out. All right, so now Clean, Rand, and Moraine are going to debate this whole Lanfear situation.
I didn't like that Moraine was like, oh yeah, you've been with her for a while. She could have hurt you. And just like, oh, you're just having this realization, you didn't consider that at all before you ran in, stabbed her, and slit her throat?
Just like how the Aes Sedai have never thought that the Black Ajah might exist. It's just like, what? All right, so now we get the critical piece of information that Lanfear didn't become a dark friend until Luz Theron broke her heart.
Mm-hmm.
So that adds depth and complexity both to Rand's feelings for her and to us as the audience, feeling like maybe she's on Team Lanfear rather than Team Darkseid.
And not necessarily. In the books, they never really give a reason why she joins the Dark.
No. I was in a discussion once where we kind of assumed that she was forced to be dark by being at ground zero for the boar.
But that's not true at all.
Okay, I remember being in a discussion about that.
Yeah, we had a discussion about it. And then I figured out she became a Forsaken, like, after she was one of the last Forsaken to become Forsaken. Right? There was a whole war of power. Like, the Dark One was free for years and years and years after she drilled the boar, before she became a Dark Friend and Forsaken.
I remember putting together a whole timeline, and I don't remember where the hell she was on it. That's hilarious.
She was not, because, yeah, I remember doing it and being, like, really surprised, because I was like, oh, yeah, of course, she was at the boar, she drilled the hole, the backlash turned her dark, right? Very obvious, we saw that happen. Nope. She went on to become an Aes Sedai. She was an Aes Sedai for a long time and only turned much later.
Wow.
According to the order in which Forsaken turned, right?
Huh. Interesting.
Because some of the Forsaken didn't turn until good way into the War of Power, and she was not one of the early ones.
Yeah, I think Demon Dread was one of the other ones who was really, really late. Yeah. So Rand lays down fully clothed on top of the covers with Moraine to watch over him, and because he's exhausted, it takes all of 5 seconds for him to fall asleep, which is relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And then he snaps into Telegram Riyadh with no fucking pause. And he's on the bondage wheel.
Yep. On the 7-spoked wheel, which, great allegory, right? The Dragon Reborn strapped to the wheel as it turns, right. No choice.
Also, when she got stabbed, she had him tied to a bed, so it makes sense to pick up the conversation where they left off with him tied up.
That's a good point.
And then she does her leather mommy look around and is like, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Because she goes fully extra. She is... The one thing I don't like about Lanfear is that they've made her color theme black. I keep being jarred out of it because she's supposed to be white and silver. And the fact that she's all black, like, I get it visually, it's striking, but I keep being like, but that's Semirog or Moghedien. That's not Lanfear.
Yep.
Oh, well.
But excellent ending and excellent way to sort of be like, oh shit, what's going to happen to him now? And we will find out.
Tune in next week.
There was no Lan in that episode.
No Lan, no Matt, no Alana. Well, yeah, the whole Lan Alana, that entire plot. Obviously. Yeah, I mean, because there's so many plots. I feel like, okay, so broadly, this is maybe my least favorite episode. Definitely so far, maybe of the season.
I gotta say, I think the last one takes my trophy for least favorite. But yes, this comes close.
But also, I feel like this is the book, or this is the episode that expands the world in a way that like Shadow Rising does for the series, where it's starting to get that we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
Because the Shanshan are so weird. Like, I don't know, it's starting to feel less like a build your own fantasy TV show kit. It's starting to feel more like the things that make Wheel of Time different are coming through.
Right. And for me, that's the bringing in of the Aiel, right? Which I think is why you're feeling it a little bit with Avienda being brought in. But, and the Shanshan, yeah, they do expand the world a little bit. But for me, it's not until we really get to the Waste that the world felt expansive to me.
Well, in the books, yeah, but I'm saying that the show is starting to broaden in a way that feels more Wheel of Time than like other fantasy TV. Like, we've got more disparate locations and more disparate cultures packed in,
and lots of plot lines going on that we're flashing between.
Yeah,
and you know, we're in the villains, we're getting villains POV, we're getting to our friend socials, right? Like, yeah, I feel like they're doing a very good job of that sort of disparate plot line balancing.
So like in that regard, I liked it, but also I feel like the harshness of the editing really showed through, and that makes it my least favorite so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me it was Moraine's weird plot line, and this like, why is she running back to her sister's estate? That feels like an obvious place for Lanfear to find them.
Moraine has a lot less knowledge and composure than she did in the books. It's like they made Lan younger and they made Moraine less competent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily disagree, because they're super OP at the beginning of the series compared to our main characters. But like, it's awkward and not necessarily fitting together super well either.
But at the same time, I really did like the Leandrin traveling through the ways, bringing the girls, their capture, everything with the Shanshan. Like, I thought that was all really good and really excellent.
I love the Shanshan. I'm loving the Shanshan plot and the characters and the set design, costume design, like everything about what's happening with the Shanshan. I'm super intrigued by.
And I like what I'm seeing with Avienda and the Aiel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very true to the books. I feel like when they do introductions of new things, they're really true to the books. Like the dialogue and all of that, like when they're first bringing something in. And so this episode bringing a lot of new stuff in, they had a lot of true to the books moments, and it was nice to see those things fleshed out and brought to life. I just wish that they would let us get all the stuff that they filmed. I wish that they would spend all that money creating all that excellent content and then not just set it on fire for some fucking algorithm. And yeah, I'm not super enamored with the Moraine plotline, but I like getting to have Rand do Kyrian and politics stuff, and Anver is fucking phenomenal, so yes. I'll live with it.
It's the killing of the horse. I think that's really like that. I'm just like, nah, no.
Yeah, the killing of the horse was rough. I liked the cruelty to the stable hand. The needless cruelty to the stable hand to establish Lanfear was fine, but having Moraine just senselessly kill a horse is like, well, you're establishing a character trait that I can't get behind.
Isn't, it's just not Moraine to me. It doesn't feel Moraine to me.
No.
So, I feel like they had to write a bunch of extra stuff for Moraine this season to keep her in the series, and it feels not very Wheel of Time to me.
Yeah, it feels very much like another story is elbowing in. Mm-hmm. Like it's been reskinned to fit, but like, yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's the thing though, is that they made a really dramatic departure and they have to play it out. And so we just get to roll with this thing we don't like until it hits its logical conclusion where it can braid back into a better plot. And like, we're just in the thick of it at this point.
Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're used to doing that with Wheel of Time. We did just finish going through
the slog.
the slog, so it's not like we're unaware of sometimes waiting for a plot line to come back around to the point where you can weave it back in with the rest of the story, Perrin.
Yeah. And also, like, at this point, I was really intrigued by Barthanes, and he ends up being such a letdown that I didn't enjoy those scenes as much as I wanted to, because, like, I like where they were going with it until they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Or what? I don't even know what I thought was happening, but I was having less fun with Barthanas on the rewatch than I did on the first watch.
I think the reason it feels like a letdown to me is it doesn't really affect Rand in any way, shape, or form.
No. Maybe in season 3 they'll
Yeah.
make it pay off so that way the next rewatch is cool. But yeah, it's I want Barthanas to be as much fun as he looks, plot-wise.
Well, he's not dead, right? They just imprison him.
He isn't dead, and the interaction he had with Rand definitely made me feel like there's maybe an interesting character there who's going to make for a good mini-boss later on or something. I really like the Kyrian and stuff. I like that they're fleshing out the Damodred family to carry more of the Kyrian plot. I'm enjoying that.
I don't like the burning of the letters didn't really come to anything.
No, it didn't.
That was more of a Easter egg than...
Yeah. That was, fan service that... I mean, I wanted to see it. I would have been mad if we didn't get Rand burning a letter, but it would have been nice if it was more than just an Easter egg.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also the Kyrian plotline is complicated enough, I guess, so...
Oh, I don't know.
And again, I mean, like, Kyrian is gonna come back around as a plot. We can always have... You burned my letter, so fuck you, I'm not working with you, be a line that comes up later. Because obviously Kyrian's going to come up. I'm pretty sure Anver is going to take Colaver's plot. So, like, we can let that detail just marinate for later, I guess. It'll come back to bite him. That one thoughtless gesture you made the first time you were in Kyrian has long-lasting implications. That would work.
Especially if Tom shows back up in Kyrian.
Mm-hmm. Which he is cast for season 3. Like, so... You know, it's not everything has to pay off in this season. There are other seasons, and we do want threads to pass from one season to another.
Sure.
Yeah, there's just a lot being lost in the creative process, and not all of it is equally easy to swallow.
I'm nodding to that. But I keep hearing from people who haven't read the books that they really like the show when they give it a shot. So I'm convinced that they are creating a show that's worth watching. It's not very true to the books, but I think they made a decision that the books are too hard to adapt the way they're written, and they're going to make significant, massive changes to them.
And cast very talented people to do an excellent job of pulling it off.
Yes.
And also all the people who are not actors but are equally involved, like costume designers and all that. Like,
but yeah, I'm looking forward to again. I am still looking forward to season 3, which I'm looking forward more to season 3 than I was to season 2.
Yeah. The expectations being set up, the power of the springboard that this is creating. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely still feel very positive about the show. Just, got to get into our very honest feelings about what we're disappointed about.
Nitpicky, yeah.
That's what you guys come to us for, is nitpicky bullshit.
I was recently reminded of probably the first podcast I ever listened to, which was Hypercritical by, John... I don't remember. Anyway, his whole thing was he'd take things he liked and pick apart the parts of it that sucked, right? Like, whether it was product, whether it was software, whatever it was, it's like, here's something I like. Here's what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what, I've taken a lot of inspiration from the way he approached podcasting. Because, I love this thing, but obviously I want to pick it apart.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. If we didn't love it, we would not spend this much of our energy on doing that.
Exactly.
Although there are
and that was
apparently
his whole
people
point.
who do that.
John Siracusa.
There are apparently people who do spend all their time hating on stuff and genuinely hating it. I don't understand that. I'm not hating on a thing. I'm picking it apart out of love. But supposedly, there are people who pick shit apart out of hate. I don't know any of them, thank God. Super Skylight says they can only do that for money. That might be true. I guess rage clicks do pay better.
Yeah, they do pay pretty well. Sorry, I put the podcast in the chat. It's, when was I listening to this? Episode 100 ended in 2012. So that was his final episode. So that tells you, and I was listening to this as it was coming out. So yeah, I was listening to podcasts. Like, this is very early podcasting. He started in early 2011. Early 2011. And he went on to be in Accidental Tech Podcast, and his co-host, pretty much, it's a tech podcast about, and a lot of the early episodes are how do you make podcasts. So a lot of the techniques we use to make Watt spoilers really comes from essentially Hypercritical and then ATP, Accidental Tech Podcast. because those are the podcasts I was listening to in 2011, 2012, and they taught me everything I knew about podcasting at the time. So
wow,
that's why we do the double-ended recordings the way we do. That's why we have, you know, the microphones the way we do. That's why I use the editing software I do. And a lot of that's outdated because, again, that's from 2012. Now it's 12 years later.
Right,
and there's,
right.
you know, all sorts of platforms and stuff. But, you know, one of the reasons why Watt Spoilers got such an early start on the Wheel of Time podcast content creation is because I was listening to these guys.
Wow. Well, that link will definitely be in show notes so you can listen to our grandparent inspiration people being hypercritical.
Also, if you want to listen to this guy, I mean, he's a super smart nerd who is quite good, gets, you know, quite good at podcasting, and, you know, it's kind of fun to hear about some of these things. And he's very smart. So
I might listen to that because there are definitely aspects of the podcast that even now I find are very rare as I expand my horizons into podcast editing ideas and how other people podcast and all the podcasts out there. Like, there are things about ours that are still unique after all this time. And maybe that explains it a little bit.
Well, it did grow organically, yeah, but like, in what way? Like, what do you find extremely unique?
Local recordings.
Local recordings, yeah.
Nobody fucking does local recordings.
Yep.
And it drives me fucking bonkers.
It's 100% based around these guys, and because they're just hyper technical nerds who knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it's I was just editing TVAD the other day, and they use StreamYard, which is fine, but whenever two of them are talking at the same time, both of their audio qualities go down. So they're talking along nice and clear, and then I separate out their tracks, and so you can hear the audio quality dip. So ostensibly, their clear audio is there, but it dropped 50% in terms of its bit rate or whatever, because they're two of them are talking at the same time. So like they're going along talking clearly, and then suddenly they sound like they're talking through a pillow.
Yep,
and that's because they're doing...
I remember.
and that's all of them. That's every podcast I listen to. It's and no one wants to do local recordings. And then I get to edit ours, and it just makes me so happy. Everything is clean and reasonable, and any internet errors, there's no indication of that. And it's like, why are we so unique? And now I know. I should send those guys a note. Oh, breaking news. There's going to be a temporary ceasefire in Gaza.
Ooh, nice.
It's only temporary, but it is still the C word. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, ATP out. That will also, both of those podcasts will be linked in the show notes for everyone.
Yeah, and ATP has been going on since that's been going on now for 12 years. Like, that's one of those podcasts, like, he did his own little shtick for like a year or two, right? He did 100 episodes in like 2 years, which is a lot, right?
Sure,
Big tech nerd. And then he was like, I'm burnt out. I'm backing. I'm doing all this research and all this work, and I'm not going to podcast anymore. And then two of his buddies were like, "Hey, come hang out with us and talk about stuff. You're not allowed to do any research, and you're not allowed to edit."
Oh wow!
So he showed up, and basically his buddies started doing all the editing. And his buddy who does the editing is a guy named Marco Arment. He was one of the founders of Tumblr.
Oh.
And so then he sold it, and that's why and then he got into podcasting, and he wrote Overcast, which is the podcast app that I use and have recommended many times. So this is sort of the DNA of early podcasting.
Interesting.
You know, and so all these guys work together, and they're deep into the sort of the bones of podcasting. Although many podcasts have grown beyond what they did, obviously.
Doesn't mean they did it better.
Right. And I mean, let me tell you, these are the kind of guys who spent several $1,000s on their microphones and have home recording studios and are obsessive in a way that you are like, I don't even think you
I aspire to
because they also have money to throw at it.
That would help.
They can obsess over every little, like, there's a certain level where we're just like, fuck it, like, this is the best we have. This, you know, there's a certain microphone quality, software quality at level where it just doesn't make sense to spend several $1,000s on microphones.
Yeah, more than our entire annual Patreon income on a single microphone. No, thank you.
Right. No, thank you. You know, it doesn't make sense to build rooms for us, but they're big enough, making enough money off the podcast, and also are wealthy enough personally as, you know, nerds.
What the hell did you just do?
I have no idea.
You somehow triggered, like, fireworks or something in your Zoom.
And now I'm frozen.
And now you're frozen.
That was very weird. All right, I think that's a good time to turn off recording.
Yes, we'll call that. We'll call that a night.
Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated today. Never got her wisdom teeth out yesterday.
Oh, poor girl.
Which actually, apparently, they popped out super easy. So her recovery, so they were already kind of exposed, and they said she's like, the dentist said, don't get in a boxing match. All your teeth will come out.
Oof,
they popped
rough.
out so easily.
But also good in terms of making that an easy extraction. That's awesome.
Yes. However, it has been a lot of sort of. She's obviously still in a lot of pain. I mean, they cut into her gums and everything. So I've just been sort of taking care of things, and it's amazing between the pets and taking care of her and the regular chores and everything else. It's like, oh yeah, I haven't had a chance to sit down in a couple days.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah, I was an absolute mess for like a week. I was completely useless. And then for the second week, I was basically able to take care of myself and not need extra help, but I wasn't any help at all around the house. Like, I was completely useless as far as being a domestic partner for 2 weeks when I got my wisdom teeth out. Like, I really feel for her. That is tough healing curve.
And I took a day off. But yeah, so not only that, but we went to see her sister's recital. So we drove 3 hours to Seattle the day before and then drove 3 hours back. And so we got back at like 11 o'clock and then had to be up at 6 a.m. the next day for the surgery. So there wasn't really a lot of time to prepare. And we picked up our friend's dog for dog sitting. Never might have slightly overscheduled us.
I feel like one or two of those things maybe needed to be booted off the list.
Mm-hmm. So it's, everyone says, we say yes to everything. And just sometimes life gets busy, right? She needs to get her wisdom teeth out. And we really wanted to see her sister's recital and support her. And, these friends have dog sit Timber a bunch, so we'd like to dog sit their dog whenever they want to. And it was just, it's doable. It's just a lot. So forgive me if I sound slightly discoherent.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, sometimes life just happens really like that, very fast, and we can just write it out.
Yep. But I'm looking forward to this winter. I've got 2 weeks of forced vacation. We're shutting down the factory.
Hard to work if it's all shut down.
Exactly. So, but they're making me take my PTO, which kind of sucks.
Aww.
So it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to go negative.
That's a little bit of a bummer, but...
Yeah, it means I won't really get much time off next year. So yeah, I guess this is a good time to say I probably won't be coming to any of the cons. I both am short on vacation time, money, and I'm planning a wedding, right? So vacation time and money both need to go towards weddings rather than cons.
Absolutely.
So sadly, I think I can say now, just a blanket, I'm sorry guys, I'm not going to be making it to any of the events that I would like to, and I hate to admit that. I fought it for a while, but I just think it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I, on the other hand, have already committed tons of funds and planning energy and stuff to going to WatCon, because WatCon registration is now open and the room block is open, and I have made my arrangements. I am going to be at WatCon, barring something that is unforeseen. Like, I'm planning on being there. So everyone who wants to come to WatCon and see me, definitely come, because Yeah, you're not going to get Seth, but you'll get me.
Frankly, the better half of the podcast, let's be honest.
The download statistics would not indicate that, but...
Well, then neither one of us is the better half. Let's put it that way.
But yeah, I'm very excited to go yet again and try to actually hang out with Kate and Michael like a reasonable person this time. I'm looking forward to it.
You'll have to be my envoy and give them a hug for me.
Yes, I'm going to use your absence as my in to behaving like a normal person with them instead of just like a tongue-tied fangirl. I'm going to be like, all right, I'm just here as Seth's representative. What would Seth do?
Well, I mean, you're here as what? Spoilers representative and SpoilerCon and the money we raised for them, yes. And, you know, the fact that we got them into the fandom in a very real way by contacting them and having them come remotely to the first con and then realizing, oh my god, there's a fandom out here that we can interact with and raise money from. And also, I think it helped them go independent. You know, they started, after that moment, I feel like they went out and really started releasing stuff that wasn't through a publisher, but was just self-published audiobooks.
Yeah, and they had their tagline, was your tagline, 2 nerds in a basement. They heard that. I remember their eyes lit up so much when you and Patrick
introduced really did.
That sentence to them. And then they went and slapped it on their website because they were like, that's us! That's us! We're 2 nerds in a basement! And it's an empowering thing to realize that that's a good thing.
Yeah, we haven't been in a basement for a while, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, the sentiment is still there.
The sentiment's still there.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna make another attempt at that, and then also the new guest of honor this year is Guy Roberts.
Yes, Uno.
Yes, Uno Flaming Amesta is going to be at the con because he's been a super nerd like since the before times, and really wants to hang out with a bunch of nerds. And so is coming all the way over to the US to come to WatCon. So that will be fun too. I will not be making the same effort there.
Do we know if he's in season 3 at all?
I have no idea. The casting news is not a thing I keep up on.
Same. We are definitely retroactive, not proactive when it comes to the show. Actually, to all the media, right? We're looking at everything very, very far back in you know, from a spoilers perspective when it's all finished.
Yeah, but I'm doing way less research on the show than on the books. With the books, I'm pulling out all of the extra material and looking stuff up. With the show, I'm just like, I don't know, go check out Watt series. They just seem to know what they're talking about.
That's fine. These really are a different kind of podcast. These are very much us reacting to it and being like, huh, that's cool. And expressing our opinions about it in a way that I don't think we're really necessarily doing with the books. In the books, it's much more, our opinions are, of course, we love it, and then we're analyzing it.
Right, exactly. Show analysis is so much bigger and broader and farther out of either of our wheelhouses that we're both just like, we're gonna stick to analyzing our feelings because that's what we know. But yeah, with the books, it's like we can actually analyze more of the material in a deeper way. That there's a lot of very talented, opinionated people out there taking up that space, and I don't want to do all the homework necessary to like sound intelligent amongst such august company. So I just won't. Let's see, anything else?
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?